Thank you for being here today. My name is Caitlin Kundrat. I'm the co-director of the Cooperative Catalyst of New Mexico. I'd like to turn it over real quickly to the Cabinet Secretary of the New Mexico Aging and Long-Term Services Department, Katrina Hotram Lopez.
Thank you so much, Caitlin, and thank you for the opportunity to share this very exciting news. My name is Katrina Hotram Lopez. I'm the Cabinet Secretary for Aging and Long-Term Services. I'd like to talk to you today about the Caregiver Co-op, which Caitlin will be explaining in detail. You know, an important thing since this administration has got on with the governor, Michelle Lujan Grisham, she has really prioritized caregiving, not only in the community, but in long-term care. We need to improve outcomes for long-term care residents and improve outcomes for seniors so that they can remain in their home and their community of choice. We know and we value the caregivers and what you do every day. We also know that you aren't always valued in the way that you should. We know that caregiving is a very tough business. And in this industry, in long-term care alone, we know that there's over a 300% turnover rate every year. Why is that? Because you don't get paid enough. You don't get to set your own hours. Many times you have families that you're taking care of at home, including small children and elders, that you have to be mobile to the dollar. But what if we did something different? What if we created situations where you could actually own your own company, where you could provide the care, where you could have control, where you could actually invest in a company, make money and share with profits? And what if you could really control the outcome and care that these residents and these seniors need in the community? That's exactly what we're trying to do today. We're thinking about how to do things differently with caregiving. And so as we go through this presentation, I want you to know, we want to do better by our caregivers. We want better outcomes for our seniors and our adults with disabilities. The governor wants to do that, and we're prioritizing that and adding money in order to reinvent caregiving. We hope that you're interested in this because we are in this for the long haul. Not only are we going to provide money for you to start up a company, but we're going to be here helping you, providing you assistance along the way with our partners. We just appreciate your time and attention to this and look forward to our future partnerships. Caitlin?
Thank you so much, Secretary. We are so excited to be partnered with the Department of Aging and Long-Term Services on this exciting project, and I can't wait to share a little bit more about the cooperative model with all of you here today. So just really quickly again, I am the co-director of the Cooperative Catalyst of New Mexico, and our mission is to improve the lives of people in the Southwest by catalyzing cooperative enterprises, upholding cooperative values, and fostering a healthy cooperative ecosystem. We do this by serving as a resource for individuals, groups, companies, and other organizations in New Mexico that are interested in forming, converting to, or growing cooperatives. We follow a proven process to help co-ops form, grow, and succeed. We provide training, education, mentorship, and we connect current or potential cooperatives to other resource providers, including financing. So let's get started. I'm sure this is something we are all well aware of, but the baby boomer population is aging. And by 2050, an estimated 88 million people will be over the age of 65. In many rural areas of the country, including our state of New Mexico, 20% of the population already is over the age of 65. And by the year 2030, New Mexico's percentage of the population over the age of 65 will move from 29th to 4th largest in the nation. The AARP did a national survey a few years ago of where seniors wish to age, and nearly 90% of them wish to age in place in their current homes and communities. An estimated 70% of these people will need help with their basic daily living activities in order to do so. So many people listening today likely already know this, but I want to make sure that we're all on the same page with the terminology I'm going to be using today. And there are many forms of caregiving, but today I'll mainly be talking about home care cooperatives. And we'll cover all the basics of what co-ops are, what they aren't, and how caregiving agencies can work in a cooperative context, But for now, I want to quickly define what I mean by home care. So home care involves three basic elements. The first one being personal care. That's daily living activities, everything that involves touching a person's body. So bathing, assistance with grooming, transfers, toileting, eating, and ambulation. The second is home care, and that's all of the activities that keep a person safe and sanitary inside of their own home. And so that involves meal preparation, house cleaning, home maintenance, helping with laundry, shopping, transportation, and medication reminders. And then the third element is that, of course, it's in a home and not an institution. And that can be more cost effective, and it provides our seniors with an opportunity for dignity and independence, which is something I think our seniors really want in aging in place, and it's something I think we all want in our lives. So consumer demand for these kinds of services are growing. New Mexico's elderly population is growing at a rate that's slightly faster than the rest of the country, a rate of 11.4% per year compared to the national rate of 9.7. And our population that is living with disabilities is currently more than double the national average. This is also a rapidly growing workforce. There were more than 1.4 million new home care jobs added between 2009 and 2019, and more than 1 million jobs are projected between 2019 and 2029. This is more new jobs than any other occupation. The promises for growth in this industry are really significant, and working as a caregiver can be an extremely rewarding field to enter. But there are many challenges. This is essential but really undervalued work. And while the field is growing, there's a current shortage in direct care providers, in part because of the growing number of people needing care, but also because the jobs are incredibly challenging, undervalued, and tend to be underpaid. So there are systemic and structural conditions that home care employers are operating in. And the median wages for workers in this sector are just over $12 an hour. The median annual earnings across the industry nationally are at just $17,200. Nearly half of the folks working in this industry live in or near poverty, and more than half are relying on public assistance. There can be limited training and career development for people working in traditional agencies, and recruitment and retention are huge challenges. There's a turnover rate that's estimated at 64% industry-wide. And there are disproportionate risks and responsibilities that these workers have taken on during COVID-19, and that can make it even more difficult to recruit some new candidates into this sector. But an emerging solution is developing across the country through home care worker cooperatives, and there is support at both the state and the federal level for these types of initiatives. So we're asking today, what if caregivers could own and democratically control their livelihoods via worker cooperatives? So you're probably wondering, what is a worker cooperative? Well, a cooperative is a business, but it's a business that is owned and democratically controlled by the people that use that business. There are three hallmarks to any cooperative. The first is that it's member owned. The second is that it's member controlled. That means one member, one vote, regardless of how many hours you work for the co-op or how much money you have invested into the co-op. And the third is that members benefit. And the benefits of the cooperative go back to the members in proportion to how much the member has used the co-op in the previous year. And that kind of profit sharing in a cooperative is called a patronage refund. Another way to think about it is a cooperative is about coming together to achieve collectively what you can't accomplish individually. There are approximately 40,000 cooperatives in the United States in every industry and every sector. And there are various types of co-ops, but they're all defined by who the members are of those organizations. So the most common one are what we call consumer cooperatives. Those are over there on the right. If you're here in New Mexico, you might be familiar with Kit Carson Electric Cooperative and other electric co-ops. This category also includes credit unions like New Senda. Credit unions are cooperatively owned financial institutions. If you live in Albuquerque or in Santa Fe, you might be familiar with our grocery co-op, La Montanita. There's also Silver City Grocery Co-op. This is a retail consumer cooperative. The next type of co-op that you might be familiar with are agricultural or farmer co-ops. These are owned by farmers. These kinds of co-ops include farm supply, dairy, or producer cooperatives. Some of the largest co-ops in the United States are ag co-ops. You might know names like Ocean Spray, Organic Valley, Sunkissed Raisins, or Land O'Lakes. Ag co-ops enable farmers to focus on what they do best, which is farming, and then help with the distribution of those products. The third most common type of co-ops in the United States are the shared services co-ops. These operate behind the scenes, and the people that interact with these businesses might not even realize that they're doing business with a co-op. An example here is Ace Hardware. Ace Hardware is not a franchise. These are individual small businesses that have voluntarily come together to do some joint purchasing, some national marketing, and develop a distribution system in order for those mom and pops to compete with the national big box stores. Lastly, and sometimes less well known, are the worker co-ops. This is the smallest co-op sector. There are fewer than 500 of these in the country right now, but this is a category we're seeing a lot of excitement in for various reasons, one of which is the expansion of this model in the caregiving field. And here we have a logo of the Hardest Home Cooperative Care, which is New Mexico's first caregiving cooperative. So let's do a little bit of a deeper dive on worker cooperatives. This is where the employees of a business will co-own that business democratically. On the right-hand side here, you'll see an organizational chart for any cooperative. They all look the same. But in a worker cooperative, the members are the employees, and the employees own the business, and they make decisions about the business. But that can be really difficult to do if there are many people in an organization. So the members then elect a board of directors, and the board will hire a manager to take care of daily operations. The board is focused on governance and setting policy, and they empower a manager, a CEO, or an administrative team to handle the day-to-day operations for the co-op. Worker co-ops are an ideal solution for the knowledge and service industries like caregiving. Labor is capital in these businesses, labor, not capital, is key in these kinds of businesses. The workers tend to have a high skin in the game. There's usually a lengthy pre-membership trial period before someone can become a full member. And then once they are, there's a sustainable or meaningful member equity requirement. So the co-op members will have to invest into the co-op. It's important to note that members of a worker co-op are legally considered employees of the cooperative, not 1099 contractors or self-employed people, and they're covered by workers' compensation. And what's really exciting about this model is when and if there are profits left over at the end of the year, they're distributed back to the employees based on how many hours that were worked in the previous year. Again, that's called a patronage refund. So how are co-ops different from other kinds of businesses? Well, the biggest difference between a co-op and a traditional business is in who they are owned by and who they provide a benefit to. Co-ops are owned by and provide a benefit to their members. It's also a more equitable way of doing business. The average CEO to worker pay ratio in the United States is 373 to 1. So for every $1 a worker makes, the CEO is making $373. At the largest US worker cooperative, which is actually a caregiving cooperative in the Bronx, New York, the CEO to worker pay ratio is 11 to 1. So it's a much more even playing field. What makes a caregiving cooperative different from an agency is that the home care workers themselves own the business. They elect a board of directors from amongst themselves, and that board sets policy. The benefits go back to the caregivers themselves rather than to outside investors or to corporate owners. Said another way, a home care worker co-op is owned by the caretakers and they control it democratically. The benefits of the co-op go back to the caregivers themselves. Here we have a chart illustrating this concept a little more deeply. On the left-hand side here, you'll see Amber Care. They're a pretty large company operating in New Mexico, providing home care services. And on the right, we have Hardest Home, which is a worker-owned cooperative. So Amber Care is owned by its investors and stockholders. It is controlled by a board of directors that is elected by the majority shareholders. And in this model, 1 share equals 1 vote. So if you have more shares in the business, you have more influence. And then the benefits of this business, if they're doing well, goes back to the profits go back to the investors, and that's based on the level of investment. Now, in a co-op, it's owned by the members. At heart is home, that would be the caregivers. It is controlled by a board of directors, but that board of directors is elected by the members following that 1 member, 1 vote principle. So everyone has an equal say. And then the benefit of the co-op goes back to the caregivers based on the use of the co-op. So based on how many hours the caregivers have worked. There's a few other things that make co-ops different than traditional businesses. And one of them are 7 of them are cooperative principles. The International Cooperative Alliance adopted the 7 cooperative principles in 1995, and all co-ops worldwide follow these principles. And they really set co-ops apart from how traditional businesses operate. The first one, and we'll go through them just quickly, is voluntary and open membership. That means that anyone can join a co-op. They don't discriminate based on gender, social, racial, political, or religious factors. The next is democratic member control. Members control their business by deciding how it's run and who leads it. The third is member economic participation. All co-op members invest in their cooperative. That means that people and not shareholders benefit from the co-op's profits. The fourth one is autonomy and independence. That means when making business deals or raising money, co-ops never compromise their autonomy or their democratic member control. The fifth, and this one is particularly important in the caregiving sector, is education, training, and information. Co-ops provide education, training, and information to their members so they can contribute more effectively to the success of their co-op. And we see this often in caregiving co-ops in the United States, that many of them are going, in fact, 90% of them are going above and beyond the minimum training required by the state for their members. The next is cooperation among cooperatives. Co-ops believe that working together is the best strategy to empower their members to build a stronger co-op economy. And the last is concern for community. Co-ops are community-minded organizations. They contribute to the sustainable development of their communities by sourcing and investing locally. So why do people form cooperatives? Well, there are many reasons, but here are the few most common or pretty typical ones. There might be an unmet social or economic need. So for example, you might be serving as a caregiver for someone in your own family, and you could use some additional support on certain days or nights, but there aren't any good options in your community available. So you might come together with others in the community who are serving as caregivers for family members and start a caregiving co-op. The next one would be problems with alternatives. So an example of this would be in the 60s and 70s, people were interested in organic and natural foods, becoming more and more interested in these types of products, but were having difficulty finding them on the shelves of their regular grocery stores. So consumers came together to form purchasing co-ops and retail food cooperatives where they could provide the types of healthy, organic, and natural foods they were looking for. Another one would be to have more control over decision making. So when you are an employee of a business, unless you are in management or upper management, you have little control over how decisions around how the business is being run are made. If you would like to have more input on scheduling or policies and procedures, and you want some control over this decision making, forming a co-op might be a way to go. Co-ops are also relatively easy to enter and to exit. The structure of a co-op means that its shares can be transferred from one member to another quite easily. So if a member moves out of the area or retires or no longer wants to be part of the cooperative for any reason, they can sell their stake of membership in the co-op to someone else. And then the cooperative itself will continue to survive and thrive well beyond all, after all the original members have left. Lastly is that community support piece. Again, co-ops are community-minded organizations, and cooperatives have a strong commitment to their community and a focus on strengthening the community in which they exist or serve. So when a co-op does well financially or economically, the community is served by the co-op benefits, not just a small group of shareholders. On the left here, we have a picture of a few of the member owners of Cooperative Home Care Associates in the Bronx, New York. CHCA is the first home care co-op to have set up in the United States. They started in 1985 with 12 employees, and they now have over 2,000 workers. Again, they're the largest worker-owned cooperative in the United States. So are there any other benefits to being a member of a caregiving cooperative? Yes, being a member of a caregiving co-op is more than having a job. It's an opportunity to have good and meaningful work and to provide care in the way you feel you're best able to do that, in people's homes, being responsive to their needs. And then you get to share in the patronage refunds of the business, the profits, if the co-op is having a good year. So what are some other benefits to being a member of a caregiving co-op as compared to a traditional agency? Well, co-ops offer better wages and better benefits. And because co-ops give you a voice in running your own business, you and your fellow caregivers get to decide what benefits and wages are most appropriate for your operation. So a recent survey showed that amongst more than 2,600 home care cooperative workers in the United States, co-op members earn on average $1.93 more per hour than their counterparts at other kinds of agencies. Now, this is still obviously not enough to make this sector very viable for some people, especially if you have large families, but it's a step in the right direction. There's also those patronage refunds, the profit sharing element of being in a cooperative. And there's been a proven reduced reliance for people that are working in a caregiving co-op on public subsidies or local charity support to get by. And again, 90% of co-ops are going above the state minimum required caregiver training. 90% of them are providing opportunities for speaking engagement and advocacy work. And 90% are providing opportunities to work in the office and develop administrative skills, providing career ladders for those who want to leave the direct service aspect of the caregiving industry, but still want to stay in caregiving. Home care cooperatives also outperform the industry year over year in terms of turnover. In 2019, across the industry, nationwide, the turnover rate for caregivers was 64%. In the co-op sector, that number was just 40%. In 2018, it was a little bit more pronounced. The turnover rate was 82% at traditional agencies versus a 38% turnover rate at caregiving co-ops. And this is important because the best measure of the quality of care a person is receiving is really based on that relationship between a caregiver and the client. And relationships are something that are built with time. Caregivers need to show up day in and day out. We need to focus on reliability, communication, and trust. And those are things that are built in over time and with consistency. And co-ops are in a better position to develop this kind of quality of care with these lower turnover rates. So being a co-owner equals empowerment, mutual support, and professional development, and caregivers report more control over their schedules and their working conditions. To recap, when you're an owner of a caregiving cooperative, you have a say in how the business is being operated. You get to elect the board of directors and have an opportunity to serve on that board of directors. You have a voice in how care is being delivered and how your work is being scheduled. You experience greater job satisfaction from better wages, benefits, and more training. And lastly, you get to really enjoy the support and camaraderie of your fellow caregivers and your co-owners. So there are several different types of workers involved in a caregiving business, but who can be a member of a co-op? Well, we have the frontline workers who are the caregivers themselves. We have administrative workers who are handling things like scheduling, customer service, billing, back office support. And then you'll have a manager or a CEO or an administrative team of sorts. So can any of these kinds of people be members? Well, it depends on what is put into the bylaws of the cooperative, and that is unique to each co-op. That decision is up to each co-op and its founding members. The members may decide they prefer to emphasize more caregiver control over the business and only have the direct service workers be the members. Or they might want to involve everyone and build more collaboration throughout the organization and invite the administrative team or even the manager or CEO to join the membership. This decision needs to be thoughtfully discussed among the membership, and it's one of the opportunities that caregivers have in this model to really decide what makes the most sense for them. So what's the process of becoming a member like? Well, usually there is a pre-membership trial period. It's kind of like a co-op dating period where you're figuring out, am I a good fit for this business? Is this business a good fit for me? And there's no commitment or obligation. You're not yet a member. You may participate in training that the cooperative offers at this time, both in caregiving practices and cooperative governance or cooperative practices. And then once that pre-membership trial period is up and you decide you'd like to join the co-op and they'd like to have you, you'll begin by paying membership fees or dues. And that can vary from co-op to co-op. It can be anywhere from $10 to $50 up to $1,000. Or it can be paid all at once sometimes, or through a payroll deduction. Again, that's up to each co-op to decide how they want to structure their membership fees. So being a member of a co-op means that a caregiver is ready to become a co-owner of the business and to embrace all of the responsibilities of that position. So what are some of those responsibilities that co-op members have? Well, the most important responsibility you would have as a member of a co-op is communication. And that means keeping in contact with what is going on with the co-op, being willing to voice your opinion, being willing to serve on committees that will set co-op policies, such as travel reimbursement policies or how overtime will be paid. The next big responsibility is economic participation, and that comes back to that co-op principle number 3. This is a key responsibility. Co-op members contribute equitably to and therefore democratically control the capital of their cooperative. And economic participation means sharing in the risks and the rewards when the co-op is having a good year. And when the business is having a good year, the members decide what to do with that profit or that surplus. Members might choose to allocate surpluses of the business for any or all of the following purposes. They might use it for developing the cooperative further, possibly by putting money back into the co-op or by setting up reserves for the business. Again, there's that patronage refund benefiting members in proportion to the amount of business they've done with the co-op. And then third, you might choose to support any other activities that are approved by the membership. So this could look like, it might be important to your co-op to make a donation to the local food bank or to a mutual aid group. One of your members might be having a particularly tough year and the co-op could all chip in and decide to help her out. It's up to the membership what to do with that surplus. How much time commitment is it to be a member of a co-op? Well, as a startup business, there are many decisions to be made and the founding board will likely need to be much more active. Once your co-op is more mature, there might not be that same level of activity that's needed. And if you have a small co-op, more people will need to be hands-on. For larger co-ops, not everyone is going to need to be involved in every decision. So it's a lot of work, right? It's an investment of time, money, energy, resources, all of those things. So some of you might wonder, why take on these extra responsibilities? And that's a totally fair question. But by being a co-business owner with your fellow caregivers, you get to develop skills and abilities through the cooperative. You'll understand what's going on with the business. You'll understand how to interpret business financials. You'll be able to voice your opinion and learn how to be heard. And these are skills that we can all use in our personal lives, in our families, in the PTA, at our churches, and in our communities. And it's important to note that this field is heavily dominated by women. And women especially have an opportunity to become leaders in their communities through the skills they develop in their cooperative businesses. I like this picture here of a woman named Kippy Waters. Kippy Waters is a co-founding member of the Peninsula Home Care Cooperative in East Jefferson County, Washington, where they're doing a ton of cooperative development for new home care co-ops. And Kippy says that this is not just a job that pays a higher wage than other agencies. It's an opportunity and a responsibility to own a business in our town. But why would you choose to work and own a business in your town with others instead of working for yourself? Well, I think we all know that in the caregiving field, things can happen. You might become ill, and being self-employed, there just isn't that backup. Sometimes your client could become ill and may have to go to the hospital or may even unfortunately pass away. And it may be difficult to quickly find other clients to take care of and to fill your schedule. And this is part of the benefit of being a member of a cooperative. The structure takes into account what is best from the caregiver's perspective, and then the co-op sets the structures and the policies accordingly. It's kind of a happy medium between being self-employed and working for an agency that will provide you with that backup. And obviously in a co-op, it's a group. You don't always get your way in decision making, but it's a give and take, just like everything else, just like it is between a client and a caregiver, right? There's a give and take between the caregivers that are the members of the co-op. So there are a few different ways to start a co-op that are pretty common. The first is member initiated. That is when there is an idea that a group of excited individuals just come together and dream up and develop that concept. The next would be an incubated co-op, and that is when the startup idea is put forth by a development group and then transplanted amongst recruited members for that business. And the third is a conversion. So when you can take an existing business and you convert it into a shared ownership where the employees own the business. The cooperative development process looks a little different for every kind of co-op, but it can generally take 2 to 3 years from the initial idea phase to the starting of operations. Sometimes it happens much quicker, and sometimes it happens much longer, but I'd say generally about 2 years is common. There are many steps to go through as it's a shared business, and you have to have good checks and balances to make sure that everybody's on board. And you really have to do some good thinking that goes in behind launching the business. So the different steps that all cooperative development needs to cover, you start with the idea exploration. That's where you're going to define your business concept. You're going to work with others that want to start this business with you to firm up your idea. You'll talk with other co-ops in the industry and the region. You're going to explore your cooperative values and principles, and then you're going to define your business's values and your business's mission. And this is something that's really important not to skip over, because you can come back to this, your shared values and your shared mission, over and over again when you inevitably hit some roadblocks in your development, because starting a business is hard. So you need that guiding North Star. The next piece is, you're gonna work to explore ownership culture and participatory democracies. Co-ops are a form of economic democracy. You'll want to identify further resources in this exploration stage. So you might hire a project coordinator. That can be a part-time position. It doesn't even have to be a paid position, but it could be a part-time position. And this person serves sort of as a taskmaster, someone who's going to keep everybody on task and be a point person to schedule meetings and serve as a conduit for different information as the co-op is in this beginning nascent stage. It's a great time to reach out to co-op development centers and business consultants like CCNM. You'll also want to link up with an attorney or an accountant that has experience with the cooperative model, and we can help connect you with those kinds of partners. So you'll at the end of this phase, the idea exploration phase, you'll have formed a steering committee of about 3 to 6 people would be the ideal size. And this is a group that's going to really be able to carry this idea forward and keep it moving. After you have your steering committee, you're going to meet regularly and you're going to start getting into it by exploring business viability. You'll want to do a business plan and have a third-party feasibility study conducted. You'll want to work with a co-op developer for this, or have a co-op developer link you with a consultant who has expertise in those in your industry. And if it looks viable from both a business viability a business plan and a feasibility study, you'll move forward with incorporating the business, your legal structure, and you'll incorporate and set up all the other structures that are needed. Next is capitalization. These are businesses after all. And after your capitalization is together, you'll move to operations and you'll actually begin the business. And then there's that ongoing education and training to make sure that members are fully participating in the life of the cooperative, and the cooperative business is in it for the long haul. So if you'd like to learn more, please drop us a note at CCNM. You can visit us on our website. There's a contact form, or my email will be on the next page. I've put some links to some resources here, and they'll be down in the description on this video as well. There's some great resources from the Cooperative Development Foundation, is really leading work on home care cooperatives with their home care cooperative initiative. And I encourage you to check them out. And here I have two names of a co-op that exists already in New Mexico, the Heart is Home Cooperative, and then Albuquerque Assisted Care and Comunidad, which is being developed in partnership with Encuentro in Albuquerque. So I just want to reiterate, we can help. We are here to help. CCNM's cooperative development consultants are available to assist interested groups and individuals free of charge at any stage in the process, whether you just want to talk about some ideas or if you really are ready to get moving on forming this kind of business. In addition, ALTSD will be releasing close to $1 million in funding later in 2021 to assist interested groups in the startup, launch, and implementation of caregiver cooperatives in rural communities. You can sign up for our email newsletter list, the link is below, to stay up to date on our announcements and for information on more upcoming trainings, as we'll be doing many more of these throughout the summer. And again, thank you so much for watching today. My name is Caitlin Kundrat. Here's my email information and my phone number. Please visit us on the web at coopcatalystnm.org, and we look forward to assisting you with your caregiver cooperative business. Thank you.